friends, and welcome back to Logan's Voice, a podcast where we talk about grief, healing, and the fight to end the silence around fentanyl poisoning and substance use disorder. If this is your first time here, I want to thank you for pressing play. And if you've been walking this road with me for a while now, I'm glad you're here again. This podcast was born out of my love for my son Logan and my commitment to making sure his story and the stories of so many others are not forgotten. Logan died from fentanyl poisoning in May of 2020. He was just 32 years old. And even though it's been 5 years, there are still days where I feel like it just happened. The memories, the weight of the loss, they can sneak up on me even when I think I'm doing okay. So today, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what it really means to be triggered. And I don't mean in the internet meme kind of way. I mean in the real, heart-stopping, breath-catching way that grief can rise up and knock you off your feet. This episode is called Why I Still Get Triggered and How I Cope. And I hope it gives you some language, some comfort, and maybe even some peace for the days when your own grief comes out of nowhere and demands to be felt. Whether you've lost someone you love or you're showing up today to understand what your loved one is going through, I want you to know this is a safe space. There's no timeline for healing here, no judgment, no shame, just real talk from someone who's still walking it one step at a time. Let's get into it. Triggers come in all shapes, and not all of them look like grief at first. Sometimes they're loud and obvious, other times they're quiet and sneaky, but they hit just as hard. There are the predictable ones like holidays. Christmas hits me the hardest. Logan and I used to make a whole production out of it, decorating everything, laughing over lights and ornaments, blasting music while we cooked. That used to be our time. So when December rolls around, even if I try to brace for it, the ache shows up anyway. It's not just missing him, it's missing who we were together in those moments. Then there are the milestone dates, his birthday, his anniversary. Sometimes the body remembers before the brain does. I'll feel anxious or low and not know why. Then I'll glance at the calendar and realize it's close to May 19th again. But grief isn't polite enough to only show up on cue. Some triggers are visual or sensory. A certain pair of shoes, a scent that reminds me of his cologne, a hairstyle, the sight of his handwriting in a notebook I didn't know I still had. And just like that, I'm flooded with memories I didn't ask for. Both are painful, but beautiful. Social triggers can hit too, like being in a room where people are talking about their kid's new job or grandbabies, and I smile and nod. But inside, I feel this enormous hollow space where my son should be. I'm happy for them, genuinely. But I'm also grieving for the future I've lost, for the stories I'll never get to share. Some triggers are just strange and random. I remember once I was watching a TV show and a character said something that Logan used to say all the time. I hadn't heard it in years, and it just cracked me wide open. Another time I saw a PT Cruiser on the highway, the same kind Logan and my dad tricked out together with blue lights underneath, and I had to pull over because my eyes filled with tears. But here's one that might surprise people. Joy can be a trigger too. Watching a father and son laugh at a campsite, seeing a kid graduate high school, moments filled with life and possibility, and suddenly I feel a pang of heartbreak. Because Logan should be here for those things. He deserved those moments, and I wanted to see them with him. It's a strange kind of grief to be thankful for beauty and also devastated by it at the same time. But that's what loss does. It sharpens your vision. You start seeing everything through the lens of what's missing. And I want you to know, if that's how you feel sometimes, you're not alone. You're not doing it wrong. That's just what deep love looks like when the person we love isn't here to share it with anymore. So after all that, the triggers, the waves, the moments that knock the wind out of me, how do I cope? I wish I could tell you there's one magic solution, but the truth is, coping is a toolbox. And on different days, I have to reach for different tools. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that when a trigger hits, the first step isn't to fix it, it's just to survive it. I take deep breaths, I get quiet, I give myself permission to feel the wave instead of fighting it. And when I can speak, I speak the truth out loud. Even if it's just to myself, I'll say, this is grief, this is pain, but it will pass. Reminding myself that what I'm feeling isn't permanent helps me ride it out. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I need to walk away, and I've stopped apologizing for either of those things. But beyond the in the moment tools, I've learned something even more powerful. I have to create space in my life to recharge before I hit emotional empty. For me, one of the best ways I do that is by getting outside and going camping. There's something sacred about being out in nature. No notifications, no headlines, no pressure to perform, just the sound of the wind through the trees and the crackle of a fire. That's my church. That's where I can breathe again. When I'm camping, I feel close to Logan. Maybe it's the stillness, maybe it's the simplicity. But out there, I don't have to hold it all together. I can talk to him, I can cry freely, I can remember him without distraction. I can miss him without masking it. Logan used to say, Dad, you're not really camping, you're just outside. And that tickles me every time I go camping, I think of that. Camping grounds me, literally and emotionally. It reminds me that there's still beauty in the world, even in the middle of my pain. It gives me something solid to stand on. But nature isn't the only thing keeping me upright. Advocacy is another anchor. It's a different kind of grounding, but just as powerful. When Logan died, I had a choice. I could be silent or I could speak out. And let me tell you, speaking out saved my life. Sharing Logan's story, launching this podcast, helping others understand the truth about fentanyl poisoning and substance use, that's how I stay connected to him. That's how I turn my pain into purpose. Every conversation I have with a grieving parent, every kit of a naloxone that I hand out, every school I visit, every vendor I talk to, every story I hear at Bridge the Gap, it all reminds me that Logan's life still means something, that his voice didn't die with him. It lives in me. And through this work, it's helping save other lives. Advocacy doesn't erase the grief, but it gives it somewhere to go. It gives it meaning. And when I pair that with the quiet of nature, when I move between moments of connection and moments of stillness, I find my balance again. It's never perfect, but it's honest, and it's mine. So if you're grieving and wondering how to cope, start with breath. Then look for what grounds you. Look for what gives your grief a voice. Look for what reminds you that you're still alive and that your love didn't die with the person you lost. It just changed shape. There's something really important I want you to hear, especially if you're grieving and wondering, am I doing this wrong? Let me say it plainly. You're not. Getting triggered, whether it's 5 months in or 5 years later, doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you haven't healed enough, and it doesn't mean you're stuck. It just means that the love you carry for the person you lost is still alive inside you. And that love doesn't vanish when they do. We live in a world that doesn't know what to do with grief. People want to rush you through it, fix it, clean it up, tie it in a neat little bow. But real grief doesn't follow that script. Real grief is messy. It's nonlinear. It shows up when you least expect it. Sometimes when life is good, when you're laughing, when you feel like maybe you found your footing again, then boom, it's right there. And for those of you who are supporting someone who's grieving, whether it's a partner, a friend, a coworker, or even someone you barely know, let me give you this. Don't pull away when it gets heavy. Don't get quiet when they cry. Don't change the subject when their child's name comes up. Just stay. Be present. You don't have to do the right thing. You don't have to say the right words. You don't have to fix anything. Sometimes just sitting next to someone in their pain without trying to move them out of it is the greatest act of love you can offer. I'll be honest. There have been moments when people avoided me, not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know what to say. And I get that. Grief makes people uncomfortable, but silence, that can hurt more than any clumsy sentence. So here's what I tell people. If you don't know what to say, just say Logan's name. Say Logan's name. Say your person's name, because even if it brings a tear to our eye, it also brings life to their memory. One of the most healing things you can offer a grieving parent is permission to remember out loud, to speak, to share, to feel, to tell their story without worrying they're being too much. And if you're the one grieving, hear this. You don't owe anyone a timeline. You don't have to be over it. You don't have to smile through it if you're not feeling it. Grief isn't a weakness to be fixed. It's a reflection of your capacity to love. And the world needs more of that kind of love, not less. Before I close out today, I want to say something specifically for those days that hit hard. The days where the trigger knocks you flat, where the grief feels fresh again, where you're wondering if you're strong enough to keep going. I've had those days, and I still have those days. There are moments where I look around and everything feels like a reminder that Logan isn't here, and it stops me in my tracks. Sometimes it's big, like his birthday or Christmas. Sometimes it's something small, like the sun coming through the window just right, and I think he would have loved this day. And then the ache comes rushing in. So if you're in one of those days right now, or if you find yourself there tomorrow, I want to offer you this. You are still here, and that matters. You made it to this moment. You're breathing, you're grieving, you're remembering. That is sacred work. You don't have to be strong all the time. You just have to keep showing up for yourself, even if that means getting out of bed and sitting in silence, even if that means going for a walk, calling a friend, or just crying it out with a blanket over your head. It all counts. And when you're ready, whether that's tomorrow or next year, I hope you'll tell your story, because someone out there needs to hear it. Someone needs your truth to know they're not alone. Logan's story didn't end with his death. It lives on every time I speak his name, every time I hand someone a naloxone kit, every time I record one of these episodes. And your loved one's story still lives too, in you. So take the time you need. Ground yourself when you can, and when you're ready, keep going, one breath at a time. As I wrap up this episode, I want to thank you, truly thank you, for being here. Whether this is your first time listening or you've been walking alongside me through this podcast for a while, I don't take it for granted. Talking about grief isn't easy. Living with it is even harder. And being honest about how it shows up still, years after the funeral, after the casseroles are gone, after the world thinks you should be better, takes courage. So if you're here, still listening, still learning, still feeling, you're already doing the brave work. I hope what we shared today helped remind you that triggers aren't setbacks. They're just reminders. Reminders that we loved someone so deeply, we still feel them long after they're gone. And that love, that still matters. I still get triggered. I still cry. I still miss my son with everything in me. But I've also learned how to stand back up. I found ways to ground myself in nature, in quiet, in purpose. And most of all, I have found my voice. And if you're struggling to find yours, I hope this podcast helps you get a little closer. You don't have to do this alone. That's what Logan's Voice is all about. If you found comfort, strength, or clarity today, I hope you'll share this episode with someone who needs it. Go to logansvoice.com to listen to more episodes, or get a copy of the book I wrote, Logan's Story, or pick up something meaningful from Logan's Swag Shop. Every shirt, every book, every story shared helps support the work we do through Hope Movement Coalition. And don't forget, we're coming together in person for Bridge the Gap 2025, happening this August in North Little Rock, August 23rd, 2025. If you want to connect with others who get it, who've walked this road, who are turning their grief into fuel for change, join us. You belong there. Until next time, take care of your heart, take care of each other, and remember, I am Logan's voice. I am Logan's dad, and I will not be silent.